There is no other venue in the United States, no other jurisdiction in the United States that has legalized brothel prostitution.
Right now we are in the Mustang Resort, which is a ranch right outside of Reno, Nevada. It is a legal house of prostitution. We were able to acquire the original Mustang Ranch through the federal government on eBay, which is an amazing thing. It cost us $145,100. Millions of dollars later, after having to cut it apart, move it, we actually got to run it. But this was not easy. We also had court battles in the meantime, local businessman fighting us. He didn't want it here. So there were lawsuits after lawsuits after lawsuits.
Brothel prostitution has been a part of Nevada's experience going back to its territorial period as early as 1861. And for the most part, it was tolerated. When men came to the frontier, a large number of women looking for the opportunity of making money followed the miners to, in particularly Virginia City and the Comstock, but certainly some of the outlying communities. Now, it wasn't legal, but there were provisions made for regulation. It was kind of a gray zone endeavor. Where the state law did play in this, it was considered a local option, and it was up to the county commissioners or the city councils to do this. But there were restrictions in zoning, 400 yards. Initially in 1887, 1889, that was a school and a thoroughfare, and a major thoroughfare. In 1903, churches. So there was some restriction, even in the local option. You couldn't operate it next to a school, a church, or on the main street.
All the ladies that work in the house are independent contractors. They're ladies who actually work their business within the legal confines of this legal house.
I think the recognition of public health and disease transmission was something that played very early because in 1937 is when Nevada introduced testing for venereal disease. This was a very progressive action. When people contracted STDs, they could be lethal. And there, people used tincture of mercury and other kinds of things to try to address these things. So one of the concerns was more than just religious. The fact is that the diseases could be transmitted. And so Nevada, in tolerating and imposing in 1937 the testing by licensed physicians, was addressing that issue. And of course that was carried on after legalization.
There is a very comprehensive health check. We have an in-house doctor's office, and our doctor comes out and we take care of their entire health. A girl never hits the floor until she's tested and cleared. And that's extensive clearing that she does. We test for everything, every STD out there, and HIV.
World War II, remember, it's tolerated. Legalization doesn't come to 1971. The local option, or the state allowing this to happen, now the federal government comes into play. You've got a war, you've got military installations throughout Nevada. You have young men from Iowa and Georgia, Maryland, and mothers and fathers and the federal government. They're worried about the spread of venereal disease. They're worried about the appearance, all these different kinds of things. And so the brothels were closed down. Of course, it didn't mean prostitution disappeared, it just went underground. It was the work of Joe Conforti, the brothel owner of the Mustang, who helped support the candidacy of one District Attorney, Virgil Bucaneri, and worked together, and Virgil drafted an ordinance, and it was put on the docket for the Story County Commissioners. And in late 1970, on a 2-to-1 vote, they legalized brothel prostitution. And this is very important. It now had the standing of any other business effective January 1, 1971. And other counties followed suit, Lyon County and down the line. Specifically for Joe Conforti, and what it meant for other brothel owners is they couldn't be closed on a whim. No longer someone files a complaint as a public nuisance, whether it's the DA, the sheriff, a local religious leader. The brothel business had the same protection as a casino or a restaurant or a furniture store. You have to show cause. You have to violate regulations and rules. They had protections. They were a legal business.
Well, the responsibility that the house, the ranch has to the county is amazing because we pay licensing fees. Then we also pay property tax. We also pay all these other fees that they impose upon us. So when you stop and think about what each brothel that we have puts into this county, it is a significant amount.
After the legalization, and it was Joe Conforti's effort to do this, he wanted to see it legalized throughout the state, and he was opening brothels in all these jurisdictions. He tried to open one outside the Las Vegas Strip. That was stopped very quickly by the legislature, and what they did, by state law, the one area where it is illegal by state law, they set a population threshold, and that was for Clark County, for Las Vegas. And every census they moved that number up to make sure that by state law it will never happen in Clark County. So that, the other jurisdictions have done it by local ordinance when they made it illegal. Historically, we did have a brothel that operated actually on federal land, and it was the Cottontail Ranch. Madam at that time, Beverly Harrell, had used a federal Small Tract Act, but it was treated by Jack Anderson, a syndicated columnist, pointing out that that made the federal government the landlord of a brothel. And the federal government essentially pushed her off the land, but she found available land nearby and was able to reopen that brothel. Let me point out that Beverly Harrell also ran for the state assembly in 1973, won the primary, and was winning right up to the last minute in the general. Perhaps there were some shenanigans, but she was not elected. We do now have in the state of Nevada an elected public official who is responsible for owning a brothel, and that's here in Story County.
It was very empowering for me to start running a brothel. It was like it was the end of the journey for me. I'd been training for this my whole life. I went through a lot of tragic things in my life to give me the wisdom I needed to be the madam of a brothel. It's not for everybody. You put your life on hold while you're doing this. It's very difficult to have a relationship. So 1 out of 10 might make it. It's not an easy job. And when the women come to me, I always tell them, don't make this a lifelong job. Please, don't make it a career. Plan to be in it a short while. Save all your money and then go to school, do something, make a plan, open a business, do something, have a plan, but don't make it a lifelong job because you want to have a life after this.